All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for the amazing intro, Mike. Appreciate you. As Mike mentioned, I'm Cindy Nieves Boynton. I'm the Director of Operations at iAcquire. And if you guys don't know a little bit about what we do, I'm going to tell you a little bit of what I do. And basically, so I lead the content operations as well as the outreach efforts. But really what I do is piecing all the puzzles. I keep the wheels greased. I keep everybody going, and I make sure that all the processes are connected to make sure that we're operating efficiently and effectively to obviously impact our bottom line. So that's a little bit about what I do. Today I'm going to talk to you about busting barriers and the way that, well, the iAcquire way of how we build processes, we scale it, and in turn really build the team. So let's get going. So initially, when we talk about process and how we're going to effectively build it, do you pick the talent first or do you build the process first? I think initially everybody knows when they think about their A team and who they want to pick, they've got this like idea of the type of individuals that they want to bring onto their team. And that is certainly the case when you're starting from ground zero. But as you're scaling the process, it's important to take a look at the process first and then look at the team, because we're going to be discussing a couple of things that go into that. But it's really critical to look at the people, because once you engage your team, then you really know how the process is going to go. So it's kind of like the same theory with the chicken and the egg. The process or the people, it goes hand in hand. All right, so I need a couple volunteers. Where are you at? Peter. Where are you, Eric? I can't see with this light. All right, thanks. All right, we're going to do a little exercise to start off and really give an idea of how processes should be executed. So this is how it's going to work. Eric, here are the instructions. Only you can hang on to those instructions. Don't show it to anybody, all right? Peter, you get a piece of paper. Eric, you also get a piece of paper. You get a pen. You get a pen. All right, so what Eric's going to do right now, he's going to take a look at the instructions. Make sure you hang on to the instructions. You cannot give it to anybody else, nor can you communicate with Peter as far as what those instructions entail. Got it? Good. All right, so we're going to keep going while these guys figure out what the instructions and how to do it. We'll go back to them here in a minute. All right, so the iAcquire way of how we build and develop processes, one of the key important things that you heard me kind of allude to prior to was the engagement of the team. It's really important. So when you engage individuals, it's not just talking to them and making sure that they're happy, because as a director of operations, I deal with a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions. So it's not just understanding how those feelings and emotions play into the process, but really understanding what makes them tick, what motivates them, what gets them going. So engaging the team members is one of the initial things that you have to figure out about your team when developing the process. Busting barriers, that's one of my keynote terms that I use. And busting barriers is really the way that we're going to kick down those walls, get the team going, and more importantly, remove those barriers so that we can get down to the root cause of the problem. That's how you become really efficient with the process that you're doing. And in turn, you build the team. How you guys doing over there? How's it going? You need another minute? Has Peter gotten a turn yet? No, he hasn't. Okay. Actually, you guys come on up. We're done. Come on up. So what's the problem?
I can't draw.
You can't draw? Okay.
That might be the first problem.
So let's dissect this problem real quick so we can get things moving. The instructions said, draw a pink fluffy bunny. Did he draw a pink fluffy bunny? First of all, this isn't pink. Boo! Yeah, I like that. First of all, it's not pink. He might be marginally fluffy. And Peter didn't even get a chance to do his part. So, now let's back it up. What is the actual defect with this process?
I
You can't draw. Okay, that's a skill set problem, right? I didn't train him how to draw. What else?
I don't know if the color pink.
You don't have the color pink, so you don't have the tools. You're telling me you don't have the tools to do your job? Okay, Peter, what else?
He's not that smart.
Okay, that goes back to another training issue. See, these are the everyday issues as the director of operations I deal with. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause. So there are a couple ways that when you're trying to get to the root cause of a process, you ask it in a couple of different ways, right? You can ask, what is your problem? Right? And then they're going to get a little defensive, not really answer the real root cause. But if you ask them, what is the defect of the process? You get answers like that. Well, I didn't have a pink marker. How can I make it pink? I don't exactly know how to draw, so I didn't teach him how to draw. So he does not have the training, nor does he have the tools and resources to execute the process correctly. So, whoa, it got really loud all of a sudden. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. So the 7 factors to build a process, these are it. Clear expectations. With this example, the guys didn't have clear expectations. Feedback, coaching and mentorship, training, tools, performance support, motivation and incentive. I'm going to go into each of these individually, obviously using this as an example. So clear expectations. How many of you guys have had someone ask you at the end of giving you the rundown of how things work, clear as mud? I've had so many people tell me that, and to me, it's like, well, I get it, but not really. Clear as mud is a really good example of how we communicate at times that it really doesn't really get through to the individual. So clear expectations is initially for the process the one thing that we need to pay attention to, because without clear expectations, you can't expect your team members to do the process the right way. Secondly, feedback. With these guys, they couldn't really communicate with one another. They couldn't communicate, they couldn't ask me questions. They tried to ask me questions, I walked away and kept doing my thing. So feedback channel is really important. And even with the picture here, it doesn't matter how clearly or how loudly you communicate, it's all in the words and how well you actually say it. Coaching and mentorship obviously is pretty important, because coaching and mentorship has everything to do with rolling your sleeves up, getting down and dirty, doing the process yourself so that your team members actually see you doing it the right way. If, for example, for me, if I didn't know how to perform the outreach pitches correctly, or if I didn't know how to use our platform correctly, it's going to be very difficult for the team members to really trust in what I'm telling them to do if they're not expecting me to do the same thing. Training and skill set. Now this is one of the most critical ones. It goes hand in hand with the previous one of actually rolling your sleeves up in the coaching. You can only train if you do. There are certain businesses out there where they say, well, if you don't do, you teach. This is not the space where we do that. You do, you teach, and you make sure you communicate. Tools and resources. As we were mentioning with the guys here, how often do we try to put the square peg into the round hole? If you don't have the right tools, you're certainly not going to be able to write the right pink fluffy bunny, nor are you going to be able to be successful. Performance support. Can you imagine trying to navigate through New York without GPS? That's what performance support is. We have different, for us in iAcquire, we have technology that supports what we do on a day-to-day basis. Understanding that technology, understanding how it works, understanding the efficiency that we can get out of that technology, and how we are able to apply that and implement that throughout our process and operation. Motivation and incentive is the final of the 7. And one of the big things with the motivation and incentive, and that's why I have the picture here, I'm a big supporter of the carrot and stick theory. But that also is and has everything to do with understanding how your team functions, their individual traits, their individual characteristics. What motivates one person doesn't motivate the same person in the same way. So it's digging down deep and really getting a connection with the individual so that we're able to understand what we can use, what tools to motivate and incentivize them. And this is actually one of my favorite theories or quotes, because A+ team with B+ tools and resources, what do you got? you still have a B plus team. But when you have a B plus team with A plus tools and resources, you definitely have an A plus team. Because it's all about the information, the communication, and obviously these 7 steps. That's what makes your team very exceptional. The one thing that I didn't really touch up on this is the bottom few that either decide not to fall in line with these expectations, or they're the unwilling, resistant, they won't fall in line with it. So that's a separate presentation. But in this particular presentation, it's important to know that people just need clear guidance and understanding, and that's exactly how they're going to perform. Oftentimes, we fail to give them the important resources, the guidance, the coaching, and getting in there to really understand what barriers they're encountering so that we can move them and get them out of their way. So now that you guys know all the different tools that are key to building a successful process, how are you going to use this in your organization, and why is this important to our digital space? The number one thing that's really important in the digital space is speed. That is what makes us different from any other industry. We need to operate at a pace, at a speed that is second to none. And if you've got your process locked in and wired down, well then you're going to be successful, but you can't do it without your team. Your team comes first, but you got to build the process in order to do that. So you need to get buy-in. You need to get their ownership into the process. So if you don't communicate, over-communicate, if you don't repeat the process, it's a lot of repetition until you're blue in the face. But you got to keep foot stomping, letting them know what's important, giving them context, giving them the big picture. Because oftentimes when you're with a team, you may not give them the big picture because you say, that's beyond them. That's too far forward. That's too far in the future. Well, my job is to connect the dots with what we're doing presently and what we're going to do in the future. And if it means I got to tell them like 10, 15 times, well, then that's what we got to do to make sure that we get there. Any questions?